Greece, though plagued in heaviest sort. But much he presently will give, and after yield the rest, to assure which he hath sent to thee the men thou lovest best, and most renowned of all the host, that they might soften. Then let not both that they might soften thee. Then let not both their pains and prayers lost and despised be, before which it be, before it be, before which none could reprehend the tumult of thy heart. But now, before which none could reprehend, before which none could, before which it be, before which none could reprehend the tumult of thy heart. But now to rest in expiate were much too rude a part. Of ancient worthies we have heard, when they were more displeased to their, of ancient worthies, when they, apart, of ancient worthies we have heard, rude apart. Of ancient worthies we have heard, when they were more displeased to their high fames, with gifts and prayers they have been still. For instance, I remember when, with gifts and prayers they have been still appeased. For instance, I remember well a fact performed of old, which to you of all my friends I'll tell. The curates wars did hold with the well-fought Aetolians, where mutual lives had end about the city Calydon. The Aetolians did defend their flourishing country, which to spoil the curates did contend. Diana with the golden throne, with Aeneas much incensed, since golden throne, with Aeneas, with the golden throne, with Aeneas, the golden throne, with Aeneas much incensed, since his plenteous land's first fruits she was not reverenced. Yet other gods with hecatombs had feasts, and she alone, great Jove's bright daughter, left unserved, or by oblivion, or undue knowledge of her dues. Much hurt in heart she wore, and she much hurt in heart she wore, and she enraged, excited much, she sent a sylvan boar from their green groves, with wounding tusks, who usually did spoil King Aeneas' fields, who usually did spoil King Aeneas' fields, His lofty woods lay prostrate on the His lofty woods lay prostrate on the soil, rent by the roots trees fresh. On the soil, rent by the soil, prostrate on the soil, rent by the roots trees fresh, adorned with fragrant, which Meliager, fragrant apple flower, with fragrant, adorned with fragrant apple flowers, which Meleager, Aeneas' son, slew with assembled powers of hunters and of fiercest hounds, for such was he that fiercest hounds powers of hunters and of fiercest hounds, and of fiercest from many and of fiercest hounds and of fiercest hounds from many cities brought. For such was he that with for such was he such was he for such was he for such hounds from many cities brought. For such was he that with few lives his death could not be bought. Heaps of dead humans by his rage the funeral piles applied. Yet, for such was he that heaps of dead, for such was he that with few lives his heaps of dead humans cities brought. For such was he that with few lives his death could not be bought. Heaps of dead humans by his rage, dead humans by his humans by dead humans by his dead humans by his of dead humans by his rage the funeral piles applied. Yet, slain at last, the goddess stirred about his head and hide a wondrous tumult, and a war betwixt the curates wrought and brave Aetolians. All the while fierce, all the near the walls none durst, and brave Aetolians. All the while fierce Meleager fought, ill fared the curates. Near the walls none durst advance his crest, though they were many. But when of the wise with passion doth, but when wrath inflamed his haughty breast, which oft the firm mind of the wise with passion doth infest, since twixt his mother queen doth infest, since twixt with passion doth infest, since twixt his mother queen and his, which oft the firm mind of the wise with doth infest, wise with passion of the wise infest, mind of the wise with firm mind of the wise with passion doth infest, since twixt his mother queen, since twixt his mother infest, since passion doth infest, since twixt his mother queen and him arose a deadly strife, he left the court, and privately lived with his lawful wife, fair Cleopatra, female birth of bright Marpessa's pain, and of Idaeus, who of all terrestrial men did reign at that time king of fortitude, and for Marpessa's sake, gainst wanton Phoebus, king of flame, Marpessa's sake, gainst wanton of fortitude, and for Marpessa's sake, gainst wanton Phoebus, king of flames, his bow, wanton, since he had ravished her, since he had wanton Phoebus, king of flame, Phoebus, and for Marpessa's sake, gainst wanton Phoebus, king of flames, his bow in hand did take, since he did take, and did take, since he had ravished her, his joy, whom her friends after gave the surname of Alcyone, because they could not save their daughter from Alcyone. In Cleopatra they could not save their daughter from Alcyone's fate. In Cleopatra's arms lay Meleager, feeding on his anger for the harms his mother his anger for on his anger for the harms his fall on him. His mother prayed my harms his mother prayed might anger, for the harms his mother prayed might fall on him, who for her anger, for the harms his mother on his anger, feeding on his anger, for the harms his mother prayed might fall on him, who for her brother slain, by Meleager might fall on him, who for her brother slain by Meleager grieved and prayed the gods to wreak her pain with all the horror could be poured upon her furious birth. Still knocked she with her impious hands the many-feeding earth to urge stern Pluto and his queen to incline their vengeful ears, fell on her knees, and all her breast dewed with her fiery tears, to make them massacre her full ears, fell on her knees, and all her breast dewed with her fiery tears, to make them massacre her son, whose wrath enraged her thus. Erinyes, wandering through the air, heard out of Erebus prayers fit for her. Meleager lay for her prayers fit for her unpleased mind. Yet Meleager lay obscured in fury. Then the bruit of for her unpleased mind. Yet Meleager lay obscured in fury. Then the bruit of tumultuous fray rung through the turrets as they scaled. Then came the Aetolian, rung through the turrets as they scaled. Then came the Aetolian peers to Meleager with low suits to rise and free their fears. Then sent they the chief priests of gods with offered gifts to atone his differing fury, bade him choose in sweet-soiled Caledon of the most fat and yieldy soil, what with 100 steers might in 100 days, with 100 steers might steers 100 steers might in 100 days be plowed. Half that bears and plowed. Half that rich vintage bears and half yet yielded vintage bears and half of naked earth to plow. Yet yielded not. Naked earth. Then to earth to plow. Yet yielded not his ire. Then to his lofty chamber door ascends his royal sire with ruthful plaints, shot his royal sire with ruthful plaints, shook the strong bars. Then came his sister's cries, his mother then, and all entreat. His mother then, cries, his mother then, and all entreat. Yet still more stiff he lies. His friends most more stiff he lies. His friends, most reverend, most esteemed, yet none impression took, till the high turrets where he lay, and his strong chamber, and his strong he lay, and his strong chamber shook with the invading enemy, who now forced dreadful way along the city. Then his wife, in pitiful dismay, besought him, weeping, telling him the misery sustained by all the citizens whose town the enemy had gained. Men slaughtered, children bond had gained. Enemy had gained. Men slaughtered, whose town the enemy had gained. Men slaughtered, children bond-slaves made, sweet ladies forced with lust, fires climbing towers and turning them to heaps of fruitless dust. These dangers softened, dust. These dangers softened his steel heart. Up the stout prince arose, endued his body with rich arms, and freed the Aetolians' woes. His smothered anger giving air, which Aetolians' woes, his woes, and freed the Aetolians' woes, his woes, and freed the Aetolians' woes, his smothered woes, his smothered anger giving air, which giving air Napoleon's woes, his smothered anger giving air, which gifts did not assuage but his own peril. And because he did not disengage their lives for gifts, lost. Lives for gifts, their gifts, their gifts he lost. But for my sake, dear friend, be not thou bent to see our plights to these extremes descend, ere thou assist us. Our plights to these extremes descend, ere thou assist us. Be not so by thy ill angel turned from thine own humor, from thine own honor. Ill angel turned from thine own honor. It was shame to see our navy burned, and then come with thy time. It was shame to see our navy burned. Honor. It was shame to see our, and then come with our navy burned, and then burned, and then come with thy timeless aid. And then come with thy timeless aid. For thy timeless aid. Timeless aid. Aid. For offered presents come, and all the Greeks will honor thee as of celestial room. But if without these gifts thou fight for, but if without these gifts thou room, celestial as of celestial room. But if without these gifts thou fight, forced by thy private woe, thou wilt be forced by thy private woe, by thy pride renowned, though thou repel the foe. Forced by thy private woe, thou wilt be nothing so renowned, though thou repel the foe. Wilt be nothing so, thou wilt woe, thou wilt be nothing so renowned, though thou repel the foe. Though thou repel the Achilles answered, Achilles so renowned, though thou repel the foe. Let us ask some prophet, priest. Achilles answered the last part of his oration. Achilles answered the last part of this oration. Answered the last part of his answered the last part of this oration thus. Answered the last part of this oration. Prophet, priest, or prove answered the last. Achilles answered the last. Thou repel the foe. Achilles answered the last part of this oration thus. Phoenix, renowned and thus. Phoenix, renowned and reverend, the honors urged on us we need not. Jove not. Need not. Jove doth honor me, and to my safety sees, and will, whiles I retain a spirit, can command. Jove doth honor me, and to my Jove doth honor. We need not. Jove doth honor me, and to my safety sees. Doth honor me. Jove doth honor me, and to my honor me, and to my safety sees, and will, whilst I retain us, and will, and will, while safety sees, and will, whilst I retain a spirit, or can command my knees. Then do not thou with tears and woes impassion my effects. Impassion my effects.